Hi, this is Anna Imagination with the Healing Garden. I am going to take a minute to explain the difference between an ethical perspective and the subconscious mind perspective. These are two words that I love throwing around ever since I discovered them. The first thing is ethical perspective. Ethical perspective is who you are, it's your identity, it's what you value. It is the best way to figure out what this is when you look at Dr. Graves's 8 perspectives, read through them and decide which one most resonates with you. That's it. It doesn't have to be scientific. It doesn't have to be exact. You don't need anyone else coming in and telling you what it should be. That's popular and that's common and that's bullshit. That is perspective abuse. No one gets to come by and says, you might think you're a 6, but you're really a 4. No, no. What they have done is, aside from perspective abuse, confused the ethical perspective with the subconscious mind's perspective. Only you can decide your ethical perspective. So let's start there. Ethical perspective is what you pine, long, desire to be. In desiring, you are. I'm going to say that again. In desiring, you are. In desiring, you become. This is the core of triadic healing. It is the epitome of autonomy, identity, and self-definition. If you desire, then you are. Cut and dry. Anytime someone comes along and tells you that you shouldn't, that you can't, that you aren't, they are contradicting your perspective, and in so doing, conducting perspective abuse. What that ends up doing is it ends up malforming, conditioning, and taking you and putting you into a box, their perspective. Because perspectives are so unique to every individual, under no circumstance can anybody ever tell you what your perspective is. And to do so is to absolutely break down and destroy the identity, which is perspective abuse. So without science, without anything but your gut instinct, your intuition, your desire, your dream, your longing, your pining, you read through the 8 perspectives. They're available over at my website. Determine which one resonates. You are just looking for resonating. It's that warm, achy feeling of just happiness and joy. When you read something and you go, now there I am. Now that's what I want. I wish I was there. You already are. Boom, right there. If you wish and you want and you desire, you are. You instantly have claimed your ethical perspective. If you don't think you're there, but you want to be, that's something else. That's the subconscious mind's perspective. We're going to talk about that in a moment. For now, let's just stabilize ourselves with that ethical perspective. It is the dream, the desire, the longing, the ache, the resonance. That is you. And you already are it. In seeing it, in wanting it, you have claimed it. You have become it. Mission accomplished. Congratulations. You are who you say you are. Now, that's your ethical perspective. You want to take that, you want to hold on to that, and you just want to cling to it. Now, if you feel you're a 6 and you want to be an 8, well, you're an 8. Okay? You are an 8. You are whatever you want to be. If you're the one who says, I want to keep going, I want to discover what's beyond 8, that's you. For the time being, pick 6. Let's get you to 6 because we have work to do once we get you to 6. Once we get you to 6, then we'll be able to get you past that, which I can do when I teach. Now, here is the thing. What I just threw out there was actually your ethical perspective with you prioritizing growth over comfort zone. Like me, my comfort zone is growing. I am not comfortable if I'm not growing. I actually have them intertwined. You might be the same way. So if you're going, I don't care what's past 8, I want it all, I want to keep growing, that is you 100% prioritizing growth over comfort zone, which absolutely means you're probably just going to keep on growing, and that's perfectly fine. You might change your mind. You might get to a stage where you say, you know what, I'm comfortable here, I'm going to shut down, and that's okay too. You might say, you know what, I need to just take a break and rest here before I grow some more, and that's okay too. You are fully in control of where you want to be with your perspective. So choose a perspective, find the one that resonates with you, and it's that longing, it's the pining, it's the dream, it's the desire. That is who you are. So now that you've got your ethical perspective, I want you to tuck that away and just hang on to that. That is your security blanket and that is your identity. That is who you are. Now, let's look at the other one. The subconscious mind is a little bit tricky. There are two parts to the subconscious mind. The first one is the abuse, and the second one is psychological safety. When we are children, we reach a point where the identity breaks off from the unit, from the system, from the parents. And there is this conflict of your identity versus your environment. That could be your parents. You could be clashing with their authority, their autonomy, your identity. There's a power struggle. Now, depending upon what kind of parents you have, who's influenced in your life and your environment, they could range from scolding, rejection, disapproval, abuse, neglect, abandonment, rejection. It could be something simple like a scowl. At some point, something was communicating to you to say to you, growing is not going to be safe. Being yourself is not going to be safe. Proceeding a future perspective or one that's the next perspective over is not going to be safe. So if you chose, example, perspective 6, and your parents are teaching at a perspective 2, if they are projecting and teaching at a perspective 4, they're not going to like your 6th perspective. So they're going to do a lot of hands-on to make sure you conform to what they want. This is perspective abuse. Now, what this ends up doing is it ends up taking your subconscious mind and it freezes it, because the subconscious mind has one motive: keep the identity safe. So to keep you safe, it's going to go, oh, it's not safe enough to grow. We can't grow. Oh, it's not safe enough to talk. We can't talk. Oh, it's not safe enough to be an individual. We can't be an individual. And now you have inside the box conformist perspective occurring, which is perspective abuse. Because if you have this longing to be at 5 or 6, but your environment, your culture, your religion, your environment, your parents all tell you you have to be a 2 or a 3 or a 4, that's going to lock you in. Now you have your subconscious perspective and you have your ethical perspective, and they are conflicting. Now you're going to see trauma. Now you're going to see pain. Now you're going to see misalignment. Now you're going to feel suppressed. Now you're going to crave your identity, your authority, and your autonomy. And you're going to have that outside abuser basically suppressing you and taking that away from you and making sure you conform. Conformity does not fit identity, authority, and autonomy. You cannot have both. You cannot have conformity and identity, authority, and autonomy. You can't. You have to choose. And 2s, 3s, and 4s value and prioritize conformity. But if you're a 5 and a 6, you're going to value identity, authority, and autonomy. Now we have a perspective gap. And when we have perspective gaps, that's when perspective abuse occurs, usually by whoever's bigger, older, stronger, different gender, different education. Now you have all these other things, other elements that are irrelevant to an ethical perspective, interfering with your ability to get identity, authority, and autonomy. So now you have perspective abuse. So with all that being said, now as an adult, you have work to do. You need to take your subconscious mind and work it through all of the perspectives that you didn't get a chance to have. That's what we do at Triadic Healing. So now you understand the difference between subconscious mind or the subconscious mind perspective and ethical perspective. Now, the subconscious mind perspective is a little tricky because there's a lot of elements. You can have 2 parents, and you can have an abuser, and you can have a teacher, and you can have your church. So technically you have 5 different perspectives all abusing you. It's always the lowest one. Go with the lowest. If you have a mother who is a perspective 2, who feels that you need to obey her religion no matter what, that's religious abuse. That's perspective abuse. If you have a father who is absolutely adamant that you have to follow the system and be a Republican and follow all the laws and the rules, but you're a perspective 5 and 6, that's perspective abuse. That's going to be in there too. If you have a sibling or somebody outside who is abusing you in any way, then Now you're looking at that person is going to be probably a level 3. If it's violent, it's level 3. If it's sexual abuse, you're looking at level 5 or level 3, most likely level 3. When you are at a perspective, and this is something I don't talk a lot about, but I really need to, there is low function and high function. When you are high function, that is the perspective you desire to be at. But when you're hangry, when you're feeling afraid or threatened, you drop down to your low function. Your low function is always 2 perspectives lower. So I'm an 8, so that drops me down to a 6 when I'm in low functioning. If you are a 5, you're going to drop down to a 3. So 5s who are entrepreneurs could drop down to a very violent and aggressive. When you drink alcohol, boom, you automatically lower down to your 3rd. Alcohol, 100%, always lowers you down to your low functioning. Marijuana keeps you at your high functioning. It's pretty cool. It's really cool. I like to combine them to see what happens, but alcohol always drops you from high function down to low function, which is why angry drunk comes in. It's because they're a 5 and they're drinking and it drops into level 3. Or they're a 4 and they're drinking, so it drops into a level 2. That's how that works. Violence and aggression only exist at levels 2, 3, and 4. Only violence. Now, 5s, because they can drop down to a 3, that's when they enter the violence and the raping. 5s, and this is where it gets really interesting. Once you hit 6, the violence stops because 4s tend to be less violent. So you see a lot less violence if you're at a 6. 7s, there is no violence. There's absolutely no violence. In fact, that's where you start to lean toward vegetarianism and vegan. We don't. I'm curious to see if I will find a meat eater at level 7, because then you start to think ethics and you start to look at animals differently and you start to look at interspecies community. Level 6s start to. Level 7s really solidify, oh, the animals also are part of this. We need to respect them. And that's where you start to see vegan, vegetarian start to really solidify. And again, I'm open-minded to meet somebody who's a level 7, a true level 7. And they also, I don't know. Now that I'm in level 8, I'm trying to figure out how to interweave veganism into my life. And now I'm thinking about things like ethical farming. I'm huge into ethical farming suddenly. As soon as I reached into perspective 8, I want everything about ethical farming. I want to figure it out. And now my mind's there. That's level 8. Because now you're thinking about the global impact that your ethics have on other people. Whereas with levels 1, 2, and 3, you're only thinking about there is no ethical impact. You don't think about ethical impact until level 6. So it's really extraordinary once you get into all the different perspectives and you can start to see how they all fit together, how they coexist. It's gorgeous. It's like math. I'm just so excited. So consider your high function and your low function. And again, it's whatever resonates with you. If you are, there is no, I don't know, maybe I am, your ethical is whatever you want to be. It's the desire, it's the pull, it's that simple. And if you have a desire to be all of them and to just go through them, well, that's the highest level available, and you prioritize growth. And that's great too. You can do that. Absolutely. And you can never go down. You cannot skip a perspective. You cannot skip a perspective. You cannot go down. You cannot downgrade. You cannot reach level 7 and then go, I'm going to go back to 5. You can't do that. Once you're out of perspective, you are there. You can stay there. You can stay stagnant. Your subconscious mind can be conditioned to conform to a lower perspective, but not your ethical perspective. Your subconscious mind can become so abused by perspective abuse that it will make you forget your ethical perspective, but the ethical perspective is still there. It's just buried. And then the subconscious mind completely takes over, encompasses, and then starts to rip apart your identity and bury it so that you will forget what your ethical perspective was. The people who are going, I don't know who I am, I don't know where I am, are so abused by perspective abuse that they have no autonomy. It's been taken away from them completely. So they're not able to make a single decision. Start at triadic healing, because that's the very first thing we do is we start to revive your identity, authority, and autonomy. So then you can start to go, oh, this is what I value. This is what I ethically desire. And we start to waken that up. So always start with part 1 if you're in that group of, I don't know where to start. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I'm way off topic now, but I love this topic. Like this is food for me. So if you're interested at all in jumping into Trident Healing, take a look at my website, www.anashealinggarden.org. Take a look down. There is this little thing where you can decide, where do you want to be? Do you want to be a cultivator where you're a teacher, parent, healer? Do you want to be, you just don't know and you just want to take care of your own healing? That's part one. And if you want to go on for world peace and light work and healing, now you're looking at part three. So click on there. There's instruction on every different option, whatever it is you want to take. And I immediately start you right off with, okay, this is where you want to be. This is how to get there. This is where we're going to take you. And then you can follow the things, the links. It's all automated. And then for teachers, this is free, because it's important that we cultivate our future. So if you are a teacher and you're interested in Trident Healing, this is 100% free. There is an application form on my website. Go ahead and click on that. You can fill out the form, and then I will be in touch with you in 72 hours, and we will get you enrolled in the next class. So thank you so much, and may the kindest of words always find you.